Hey guys, it's LOL underscore Rybun here, and today we're going to talk about something that is, I think, important to talk about within the Heroes of Hammerwatch community, and that is the walls of Heroes of Hammerwatch. If you guys are familiar with the walls of Heroes of Hammerwatch, you've probably experienced some amount of frustration with the game, or a point at which you quit it for a while, or something similar. And today I'm going to be talking about how to get over these walls, how to dig through them, jump over them, whatever you may use as a technique or a phrase for getting over a wall or through a wall or something like that. We're going to talk about the ways at which you do that and how to not get stuck in Here's a Hammerwatch. First and foremost, we need to talk about the game itself and kind of how progression works and really why you can push eternally in Heroes of Hammerwatch to higher and higher NGs. There are a couple of reasons for that, but let's talk about the reason why you wouldn't be able to if none of these things were in place. As a game, how Heroes of Hammerwatch scales throughout the NGs is it just becomes increasingly difficult to kill things because you need to hit them for more damage, and they will be hitting you for more damage. If there were no such things as class titles, statues, attunement points, and all of that, you'd hit a point in Heroes of Hammerwatch where you can no longer progress any further. And that is because there would be no scaling that you could do to push yourselves further. So, realistically, to get over a wall, other than just pure mechanics of getting better at the game, there are quite a few options available to you, and that's what I'll be talking about in this video. Now, you all may be thinking that to get further in the game and just do better in general, you need to buy statues and spend your attunement points and this, that, and the other thing. It's all based on just grinding it out. Well, that's kind of true, but there are a lot of ways that you can sort of passively push along your progression without having to end up grinding for hours on end with, no real numbers or anything progression being seen other than your golden ore going up. And that's kind of what I talk about today because it's kind of the most important thing, I think, in terms of getting through a wall, because I kind of denied myself this for a very long time. And recently, taking advantage of it, I have been able to break through a wall on many of my characters pretty easily, actually. And that is taking advantage of the fact that there's more than one dungeon, if you will, to run through. You've got the Forsaken Tower, Pyramids of Prophecy, and now the Moon Temple. Now, aside from getting attunement points for completing these at higher NG levels, you also get bonuses from the Pyramids of Prophecy and the Moon Temple for each completion. Pyramids of Prophecy either A, giving you Nimbus if you haven't done it before, or B, empowering your Nimbus, who appears on your popping of a potion to help you fight enemies, dealing actually a quite significant amount of damage later on in the game. The Moon Temple gives you these things called Moon Shields, which recharge every single floor, and they will have, and I mean it, have a damage instance for you, which is very, very powerful in Heroes of Hammerwatch. Now, aside from just these bonuses, you get the attunement point bonuses like I mentioned before, and you can do this very passively. If you just put these 3 maps in rotation, let's say you're on NG4, right? You may not want to do this immediately if you're stuck on NG4. Maybe you go back and do lower NGs of Pyramids of Prophecy and Moon Temple, but after which you can go in rotation. So if you did NG4 Forsaken Tower, you do NG5 Pyramids of Prophecy, NG6 Moon Temple, NG7 Tower Forsaken Tower. If you just do this and you're passively increasing all of those, you will get more attunement points. You will get the bonuses from both the DLCs, and your mental state will probably be better because instead of failing Forsaken Tower a million times, you'll be failing 3 things if you get stuck. And just in general, you get a refreshing scenery as long as you keep alternating between all of them, which should make the game more enjoyable, honestly, because it's refreshing to be able to play different things. Next, we'll talk about the obvious ways of making your character stronger, which are really anything that increases stats. There are quite a few options for this in the game. First and foremost is the class title system. Class titles are given to you based on your highest NG completed on a character. It doesn't matter what map it's on, doesn't matter if it's Pyramids of Prophecy, Forsaken Tower, or Moon Temple. It's just your highest NG completed, period, that will boost your class title for that class. Class titles affect all of your characters and give bonus stats to all of them depending on the class. For example, Sorcerer gives your classes mana regen, Paladin gives you armor, Warlock gives you resistance, Ranger gives you attack power. All of these stats are very useful in runs, and while stats may not seem necessary for you, such as skill crit damage if you're running a primary build, they will affect your run because you will get items that use that skilled crit damage, and ultimately, that may be the difference between you beating Thundersnow and you not beating Thundersnow. Very simply put, it's probably advisable to level up all of your characters to take advantage of all of the class titles. However, if you're going for a very specific build, some are definitely more important than others. Next, we have something that I personally ignore. However, if I hit a wall again, I probably will take advantage of this eventually. And that is the arena points that you get for completing levels of the arena. Simply put, arena points let you dump your gold rather than your ore into a vendor who will give you basically bonus stats. It's similar to what you get out of class titles, except you can only do armor, resistance, attack power, and skill power, and that is it. And the cost of this does scale pretty fast, which is why I personally don't do it. I think for me personally, statues are just more worth it. However, at this point of the game, for me, statues cost so much, I probably should put quite a fair amount of money into the arena points to make my life easier. The scaling of cost is not overall. For example, if you put points into attack power, it doesn't make the armor more expensive. It only makes the attack power more expensive. So this is kind of a nice way to basically sit there and do a bunch of runs, get a bunch of gold and ore and stuff, and you can invest this into these points to get you flat stat bonuses. It's pretty useful, but kind of expensive. Not my personal favorite. Next, we've got statues. And similar to arena points, these are only available if you have the Pyramids of Prophecy DLC, which I would recommend getting if you don't have it already. Not only does it offer a campaign, it offers the arena, both of which are refreshing, and statues themselves are probably the main monetary source of progression later on in the game. Statues are super powerful, and that is because all of them have something that scales with the statue level, and almost all of them are significant, either providing you a percentage damage increase to conditional enemies like Ozreth when enemies are poisoned, or I don't know any of the others off the top of my head, but there's stuff for if they're on fire, if they're chilled, if they're, I believe, disabled as Falarath, and they also provide you with other stuff, like, for example, Kira gives you attack speed, flat, guaranteed. It doesn't scale past that point with statue level, but what Kira does do with statue level is increases the damage of the 2 arrows that you have a chance of firing out on your primary as long as you're using Kira. You can use 3 statues, and statues are very, very helpful. For example, Callus transforms armor into attack power, which eventually, if you get level 20 Callus, it'll give you 100% of armor as attack power, which means your Paladin class title essentially gives you the class title of both the Paladin and the Ranger, because they both give 5 of their stat, which for Paladin is armor, Ranger is attack power. So 5 armor with level 20 Callus equals 5 attack power. What this actually means, though, too, is if you have over level 20 Callus, your Paladin actually gives you more attack power than your Ranger. And this is super essential for getting tons of damage later on in the game. Cedric does something similar for resistance into skill power, and in general, there are a lot of statues you can take advantage of to make your runs easier for you, and they make quite a significant difference. This is where I would throw all of my grinded out ores and gold into. I think it's very, very, very helpful. Last but not least, if you're newer to the game, you may be able to spend these on items. However, if you're further onto the game and you're hitting a wall, you probably can just enhance monsters with these. And you may have guessed it, this is the section regarding attunement points. Attunement points are what you get whenever you level up, whenever you clear a higher NG in a map, and I'm pretty sure those are the only two sources of this. However, they are very, very useful. Attunement points are not only what you use for your skills to level them up, but you can also use them to attune weapons, which makes the weapons have double their effect. In the case of percentage weapons, such as the tower shield, this means that you get 2 of the percent chances. So I know this isn't, or maybe this is correct. I'm not sure if it is, because I don't have tower shield up on screen. But if it was a 25% chance to block 25 damage, then you would have a 25% chance to block 25 damage times 2, which means you can technically proc it 0 times, you don't block any damage. You have a chance to block it 1 time with either of your 2 chances, or you could block 2 tower shields, could proc at the same time, thus blocking 50 damage. That's how percentage items work, and that leads to some weird stuff. But similarly with like evasion, if you get the slippery cloak and it's attuned, you won't get 12% evasion, you get 6%, and then you get 6% of the remaining 94%, and that's how it's determined how much evasion you have. You can never get 100% of anything in this game. Attunement points are very good for attuning items, like we just discussed. However, they can also be used for something else. When you discover the book of, oh geez, I don't know what it's called, Book of Monsters, maybe, in Act 4 of the Forsaken Tower, you can then attune monsters and bosses, which makes them deal 20%, I believe, less damage to you, and you'll deal 20% more damage to them. So if you're able to attune a monster 5 times, yes, you will be doing double damage to them, and they will be dealing half damage to you. That is very, very powerful. In that regard, attunement points are huge, but you can only spend them on so many monsters, so you really got to pick out which ones are the problems for you. And I would fully recommend spending them on items before monsters, because they'll have an effect on everything rather than one thing, and just in general I think it's pretty useful. If you find an item is completely useless to you, or you think so, maybe you don't spend any attunement points on it, but I myself like to attune all the items, starting with the items I prefer the most, and ending with the items that I don't think are super useful. I would like to say that this video is founded on my experience with Heroes of Hammerwatch. You guys may not find the wall-breaking strategies of mine personally the most effective, but I'm going to talk about now kind of the summarization of my thoughts and why I have them. So a little bit of background. I played Heroes of Hammerwatch with a friend a very long time ago, and we eventually quit when we hit a wall. And then I came back to it probably a few months later, and I played with that friend again, and then I found out how to get over my wall. And how I did it this time was with statues. I basically grinded out ore, I leveled up my statues, my runs got significantly easier, I pushed through NGs, and eventually I hit another wall. I think this was around NG maybe 10 or so. The first time the wall I hit was probably NG 8, maybe it was NG 10. But more recently, after hitting that wall, I quit for a while again, and then I basically came back to Heroes of Hammerwatch, kind of pseudo came back because of this YouTube channel. I had a night where I wanted to make, I was thinking about my YouTube channel, I was like, I want to make a Heroes of Hammerwatch video about everything I know. Because I said, you know, I'm pretty experienced. I've hit a wall, I've gotten over it now, and I know a fair amount about the game. Maybe the information I have can help people. So I covered everything I knew in this video, titled, as you may be familiar with, Everything I Know About Heroes of Hammerwatch. This video did really well, and it kind of inspired me to pick up the game again and push through my wall yet again. and that's been a journey, and I've been kind of brute forcing it with the statue method, doing runs, getting ore, leveling up my statues for quite a while now. More recently, I realized I needed to get my warlock up in level, but I was never really successful on skill builds. And I didn't know why, and I think I do know why, and it's because I try to rush things, and you have to take it more slow paced, I think, early game on skill builds. However, this was kind of my new wall. How do I beat these higher NGs? Well, I need my warlock to level up, but that's a wall of itself. I'm not good at skill builds. How do I push through this? Well, initially I was trying to take it slower, but that ended up in I think something like 2-hour run of Heroes of Hammerwatch, and that was just not my jam. And so I thought some more, and I was like, okay, well, what do I do? Well, I want to have fun with the game, and I'm just running Forsaken Tower left, right, and sideways. So I tried out Heroes of Prophecy, and I was like, wow, I suck at this. This must be way harder than, Forsaken Tower. And then I tried Moon Temple. I sucked at it too. Like, okay, well, these maps must just be harder. But more recently, I've been alternating between the three, and I realized they're kind of all the same difficulty. I would argue that some are maybe a little bit more different or difficult than the others, but once you get used to them, they're pretty much the same in terms of how you do it. You get used to the bosses, the environments, the traps, and all that stuff, and it just gets easier as you go. And that's my personal experience with it. I have that experience now because I've been trying to push through milestones recently, and I have been doing it kind of successfully by forcing myself through these other maps I was ignoring for a while. I think, in a sense, in terms of how much progression I'm making now, it's way more than I was making when I used the statues as a means, and it's way less grindy. It's get used to the maps, do them a few times, and you'll get further because you have more attunement points. You're leveling up more, you got more bonus effects. The Moon Temple in particular is really, really powerful. Having damage is really, really powerful in a game like this. Because I'm sure, as you may know, you can be alive 1 second and dead literally not even a millisecond later. If you get hit with enough stuff at once, you're just dead. So being able to have damage is really, really nice. I would recommend running all three maps for that purpose alone, or even just Forsaken Tower and Moon Temple. But Pyramids will get you statue blueprints as well as Nimbus upgrades, and it's very, very significant. So now, as a summarization of this, I will go over what I think is the most important, and hopefully it's like a TLDR for those of you who, just want it in a short, sweet, simple list. If I were to rank things based on their effectiveness for progression and getting over walls, I would rank them as follows. We're going to start at the very bottom. I think the least effective thing, as I'm sure you may have guessed, is the arena points. I'm a little biased because I think they're kind of expensive, but I just prefer class titles to these overall for their effects, because you're not limited to just attack power, skill power, armor, and resistance, and you're going to get more significant stat upgrades. I believe the armor and resistance upgrades are 0.5 per level, so you would need to buy 10 levels to match just beating a new NG on your paladin or warlock. That alone puts this in last place for me. I don't know if you guys will agree with that completely, because it is essentially free upgrades later on when you're making tons and tons of money, at least at the lower levels, and as you catch up to where you should be at in terms of arena points, yeah, it may get a little bit more expensive. However, this is a way to boost yourself along the way. Next, I'd probably put class titles. Class titles require you to beat higher difficulties, which inherently means you have to push further to push further, which kind of doesn't work. Because if you have to do one thing to do that thing, well, that just doesn't equate. It's not possible. For example, if you were setting out on a goal to, I don't know, lift a 50-pound weight, and you couldn't do it, Well, if you can't lift a 50-pound weight, well, then you just have to be able to. Well, you're not able to, so that doesn't help, you know? It's that kind of thing. However, you know, this does work in a sense because Heroes of Hammerwatch is a roguelite game. Every single run is different. You can very easily brute force your way through a run, like I have done many times on my skill builds, by just running it like 15 times, and eventually you'll win, and then you get that class title up, which will help you in the next one. Well, then you're gonna have to brute force again, and it's kind of a tedious cycle, but I think you get more significant gains from this than you would for spending the same amount of time in terms of arena upgrades. Maybe that's not the case, but I think it would be more enjoyable at the very least. My next ranking would probably be attunement points. I think attunement points are really viable, and I think they make a huge impact on the game when you can upgrade your items. But personally, I think statues hold a higher precedence after you've gotten the first few items attuned. As far as the first few items that are absolutely crucial attuning, those probably have more precedence than statues for sure. But afterwards, when you're attuning items that are just either A-okay or B good, they're not great, then it's not going to affect your runs as much as a statue level may. Yet again, this kind of comes down to where you're at in the game too, because if your paladin, for example, isn't really high level, Callus won't have as much of an effect. But statues are super important, and the first levels, just level 1 statues, can make a very huge difference. Therefore, I would put attunement points underneath. I think in the grand scheme of things, they may go ahead because they're just so versatile. They affect multiple parts of the game, and let's say your only issue is literally one enemy, you could just dump all your attunement points on the enemy and you'll never even have to think about them again. And that is really powerful. But from my personal speculation, and really I think bias, I prefer statues, which is why I would put these next. So this would be, I think, second place now. I would put statues. And statues are super significant because in the case of a level 20 Callus, and this is just how my brain works, I think about the math and I'm like, wow, that's really strong. Let's say you have a level 100 Callus. Now, to get there, you would need to play a lot of Heroes of Hammerwatch. What would mean for every single NG cleared on your Paladin, all of your characters gain 25 attack power. 25! That's huge! Take a step further, make it level 1000. Now, of course, you'd probably be an NG like 2000 plus at this point, but that is 250 attack power per NG of your Paladin, who is probably at NG 2000 or whatever. So that is a ton of attack power. You may even get integer overflows at this point, but you know, that's how it works. It scales infinitely, and as you level up your Callus, so let's say 20, well, now every single time you level up your Paladin, you get 5 attack power, but if you level up Callus too, you're gonna get bonus attack power because your Paladin's already so high in NG that adds a ton of attack power for every single character, if that makes sense. Statues, for that reason, I would put in second place because they're very significant. And last but not least, we have the first place, the preferred method of progression, which I think is the most enjoyable, and that is just simply rotating which maps you're using. I would do this because it gives you bonuses that you'd be skipping out on otherwise. You'll get more attunement points, which are a very viable method of progression. So it kind of ties into this, and also those bonuses are juicy. I'm telling you, they're really good, and I would not ignore them at all. The last thing that I kind of didn't include, but is super significant for getting over walls, I think, later on in the game, are blood rights. These are kind of a touchy issue, I think, in terms of you'd have to spend a lot of time grinding and getting blood rights, and then if you get bad ones, you have to kind of just kill your character off and then start from scratch again, and in which case it's really a huge grind. And if you get really lucky, you're gonna be slamming through levels, NG levels, like no tomorrow, and it's gonna feel great, but they're kind of not a way to get over walls unless you really want to put in all that time, which is why I didn't include them. If you really want to, you can grind out Blood Rights and get tons of armor and resistance, and Callus and Cedric, and just get tons of stats from that, and just literally just rush your way through the game. I did test this in a previous video on my Ranger, and it made a very significant difference for my Ranger. That was, I think it was like something like a 720% relative stat gain in terms of power. And you can push that even further. So Blood Rights are definitely a method of progression, but I would not use them as a means to get over walls. If you, for example, get a perfect Blood Right setup and you really like it and you're spamming through progression and then you die, you have to get that setup again, which is going to take quite a lot of time. It's not going to be fun for you or your mental, and so I wouldn't recommend it personally. But yeah, those are the means of getting over walls in Heroes of Hammerwatch. And I think I've covered everything in terms of my rankings and all the methods. There may be some others. You definitely can get mechanically better at the game, learn your class and all that stuff. But I think these are the methods that I would recommend for just playing the game and enjoying it and taking it all in. I personally really like the rotation method. It's been working great for me lately. I'd say it's worked better than anything else so far, but I've also been playing the game a lot more, so who knows. Anywho, I hope you all get over your walls just fine. I wish you the best of luck in that. If you have any questions, concerns, anything, let me know in the comments down below. I'll try my best to answer them. Any suggestions? I don't know what the word is that I'm thinking of. Anything you disagree with, agree with, you want to talk about more, just let me know. I'm always available to answer any questions, respond to any comments, all that stuff. I love doing that stuff for you guys. So anything at all, let me know in the comment section down below. I do have a Discord as well, which is linked in the description, which you can join if you want to talk to me about anything. I'm not super active in there, like actively, because I'm not a super talkative person. But whenever I do like giveaways or anything in the future, I'll probably be doing it on there rather than anywhere else because of past experience with potential bots and stuff. So just to be safe, it'll probably be conducted over Discord. Anywho, I think that's all I have to say. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Yet again, if you have any questions or anything, let me know in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.